Thank you, Heather. Uh, and you know what? We want to send our love with you while you're in sacred service to your dog. He's transitioning. And isn't that's what this whole journey with an open heart is all about, transition. I just came back from a 5-week leave of absence. And I really mean this title, Journey with an Open Heart, to be instructions to myself and all of us, rather than a report. But this talk is going to be a little bit of both, you know. I really do want to give a report on some of our journey while our hearts were open. And I wanted to thank everybody, all the guest speakers. I wanted to thank Laura, who led the meditation on Wednesday with, I don't know why this is wiggling today, with Holly, and all the volunteers today who are in Sunday school, everybody who just kept everything going. And I love that there's always people who can step in and do things. You know, Kathy in the booth and people in the bookstore, and Zach talked, and people doing inspirational interval and all that stuff, people in the office. Now, when I think about journeying with an open heart, I know that open-heartedness has many aspects, one of which is courage, resiliency, and the one I was going to focus on, letting down one's guard, being authentic in the moment, especially the moments that try our souls. And you know how it is. You can't go for 5 weeks without having a few moments that are going to try your soul, no matter how much you plan your vacation. Now, I believe that the resiliency and the letting down one's guard is an aspect of one of the 5 unity principles, which is walk your talk in shorthand. And I have this quote from St. Paul, 1 Corinthians 13. You probably have heard this quote. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. And here's the part I highlighted. It does not insist on its own way. Although I will make a little confession. Some people who know me might think that I haven't quite learned that in every ounce of my being yet. But we're all about transformation. I looked up, just to refresh myself, about Unity Worldwide Ministries' vision, mission, and values. And because I believe that it's part of our important journey together. Unity Worldwide, a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. That's the vision. And the mission is advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. And they have values, and you can look on the website, but the value I wanted to talk about, which this open-heartedness speaks to me, is diversity. And the way they talk about diversity, listen to this. We believe that all people are created with sacred worth. We promote greater understanding among people in a spirit of unity. We believe that all people are created with sacred worth. That's really it in a nutshell for me. I have some stories from the road. One of the things that I left with, actually, or have been doing since Christmas, was using Colin Tipping's book, Radical Forgiveness. And I've even talked about it here, and I'm going to pound you all with it all year long because it's working for me. We'll do some classes with it. So the aspect of radical forgiveness is you basically take what's bugging you and you work it through. You actually work it on a worksheet, write it out. And the reason for that is because in order for healing to happen, we kind of have to actually be present and feel the things we are avoiding. We have to feel the anger and the irritation. And here is what I love about it, which was hitting me when something happened on the road. It doesn't matter if it's a little thing. In fact, a little thing is great. A little upset is a great way to find a part of yourself that is unhealed. Because we keep giving ourselves the lessons, and the universe is so cooperative. Give us the lessons over and over again. So, there are so many great things about leaving and coming home. And let me start with saying that I was so happy to get back to Des Moines, in my home, and to be in my own bed, and to be in my own space, and to be with my people who I miss. And I'm not even crabby about the snow today. So I love all of it. I'm happy to be here. And it was really awesome to go away. Roland and I were able to make some connections with family, some relations, some friends. And here's some gifts I got while I was on the road. The first place we went to was Austin. We have friends, good friends we've known a long time. A woman, Robin, and her husband, Kevin. In fact, Roland walked Robin down the aisle when she got married about, 5 or 6 years ago. He was, that's how good friends they are. And Robin is about my age, and she gave me this awesome gift. She talked about something she was working with called saging. So some of you aren't ready for this yet, but maybe at least half the room is. Saging versus aging. And I'll confess that in church work, a lot of what's going on, a lot of information, like how to get your church vibrant and alive, is about how to focus on millennials. What do millennials want? Let's get those millennials in here. And I sometimes think, as a baby boomer, and many of you will relate to this, as a baby boomer, when I was younger, there was a lot of focus on me and what I wanted. And I don't know if you're like me, but now you notice none of the commercials are about you anymore. Like, if you're a baby boomer, they don't care, except for those pill commercials, right? The drug commercials are. And I have really been wrestling with, quite frankly, feeling maybe too old, That people, they want someone younger, they want a millennial, they want someone who's got aliveness and less gravity on their person, or whatever, or less effective gravity might be a way of saying it. And so she gave me this gift of something called saging, especially, in our culture, United States, the thought that you can harvest what you've done and share and mentor people who maybe haven't lived what you've lived. It's kind of a hidden aspect. It's not really right out there. So the thought that, wait a minute, I have lived these years, and I actually have learned a few things, and I can be of service to people who are younger, that I can have a respect. And it may seem obvious to any of you, but this really struck me, that I could change my whole attitude. And instead of thinking about aging, I would think about saging, as in becoming, letting the sage, becoming a sage, letting my sage wisdom be harvested and shared. So I offer that to you too, as a really awesome gift. I see some other sages out there. And I believe that that's a gift that's going to keep on giving. That's actually going to have huge ripples for me and for us in unity. And it comes back to, we believe that all people are created with sacred worth. Any way that we can find an echo of our sacred worth is so awesome and so worth it. So all of you out there, you've got some saging to give to the rest of us. I know I'm not going to be able to talk about everything that I have on my list, so I'll just talk about a few other things this time. Here's a story about the forgiveness worksheet in the pool house. This was another good gift. So we traveled. We actually got one night in New Orleans. That was really fun, and that was all enough during Mardi Gras. It worked out great. It was total fun. And Roland got all the beads. I'm not kidding. They threw beads to him, not to me. It's a thing. If you've ever been to New Orleans, you walk down the street and people throw you beads if you look attractive or whatever. And all I can say is Roland got all the beads. We traveled, we had a great time, and we ended up at Roland's sister's house, who lives in Gainesville, Florida. And she married a man who has a nice big house with a lot of land, like an acre or something. They even have chickens and a rooster, and they have a pool house. So we got to stay in the pool house. And it was just perfect. It was just what I wanted, my own little space. I also appreciated the pool outside. Even though it was kind of cold, I did go in it a few times. And I just loved it. So we arrived on a day, they weren't there. And then they came back, and they said, oh, we've got this cousin who's coming, so could you move into the house for a couple days while the cousin is here? And I will tell you that I said yes, and I meant no. I said yes, and then I thought, and I just noticed I was getting irritated, so I did one of those great worksheets. It's a little thing. It's a trivial little thing, but I did the worksheet. And I did the worksheet. You do the worksheet, you talk about how you really feel, and you own it. Basically, the whole forgiveness thing is about recognizing that you let yourself be annoyed and angry, and then you realize that all of it is projection. You realize that all of it is projection. The beautiful part was I felt my feelings, and I was able, by the end of the process, to really feel like I'd let it go. I'd let it go, and I realized that for me, and it doesn't even really matter, but the crux of it is it comes down for me of that sacred worthiness. Somehow my needs didn't matter, I wasn't important enough, or I wasn't enough to get what I wanted, which was not to pack up all my stuff and go into the house. As I say it, it's almost embarrassing because it's such a little thing. But it was chomping my hide. And I did the worksheet, and I really let it go, and I felt it. And the miracle did happen, the next day. And I was really willing. I'd gotten to the point of willingness. And Roland's sister came out and said, well, I decided that I don't need you guys to move into the house. I'll just ask Cousin Ida to be in the house. The whole point was because Cousin Ida had dogs, and Cousin Ida's dogs weren't going to be okay in the house. And she said, I'll just ask Ida not to have them on the furniture. And as it happened, Ida came without her dogs, which was all okay, and we all had a good time. But that was a miracle for me. And I don't know if you all remember, but I talked about this whole forgiveness. One of my friends a couple months ago, to me, out of the blue, seemed like she wasn't happy with me and she didn't want to. And I'd done a bunch of worksheets on that. Well, while I was there, I got an email from her saying, hey, regret what happened. Let's recontact. So to me, that was a miracle. And but I wanted to name both things because one happened right away and one took the universe took months to work it out. And I also feel like even if she hadn't wanted to contact me, I had such peace in my heart, it would have been okay. Like I really had peace in my heart about her. So that's that open-hearted journey. Now, let me just wrap up here with a little bit here. There's more things, a lot more things. That's why you go away, so you have stuff to talk about when you come back. I have other stories. But what I want to end with is what I believe the journey with an open heart is about. It is about that letting down our guard, and allowing things to happen the way they happen. And my last little story is going to be about fire ants. Now, has anybody encountered any fire ants yet? They're not upset. They haven't come north yet. But when I lived in Florida, I was told that the fire ants have come from South America, and they are making their way north. And they are. And fire ants bite you, or they sting you, actually, technically. They sting you. And they can be, they have a really interesting technique that they crawl up on your leg, like a whole bunch of them, and then they all do it at the same time. So they don't sneak up on you. They're subtle that way. And fire ants are everywhere. They're all over the place in Florida, and they really are making their way north. It'll be interesting to see if they make it to Des Moines or if it's too cold. I don't know. So I was having a little challenge with how many fire ants there were in the yard around there. And I thought to myself, here's the test. Can I have an open heart about fire ants? Well, that is not to say that I'm going to go walking barefoot around fire ants. But I did think everything in the universe has a purpose. So I'm giving you the assignment I gave myself. I came up with my answers, but your assignment is, how could you have an open heart about fire ants? Is there any good that fire ants bring to the universe? Is there anything about a fire ant or colonies of fire ants coming north in the United States, that you would be able to have an open heart about? That's the assignment. I'm eagerly awaiting what anybody tells me, and I'll share you some of the positive things I came up with. And then, remember, you are a sacred worth. That song that Sarah sang could not have been better put. You are not all the other things. You are light. And that is why we're here together, and that is why we look into each other's eyes, and that is why we come together in a worship service, and come together in a meditation service, and come together in a concert on St. Patrick's Day, because we are light. Let's take an offering for unity. I invite you to take your tithe, your love offering in your hand, and those electronic cards, I think, if you give a